Right now. Hey, how y'all doing? This is Captain Borax here. Tonight I'm in Midvale, Utah. October 18th, 1974. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about this house. This is where Melissa Smith lived with her father, Lewis Smith, and her whole family, her sister Jolene. The house is still here, obviously. It's been turned into some sort of subdivided duplex, maybe. But it's at the end of Fern Lane. And in a second here, I'll get out so you can kind of get a better look at it. But on October 18th, Melissa decided to go up to the Pepperoni Pizza and be with one of her friends who had called her, who was apparently having boyfriend problems and was pretty upset and just wanted to talk to her. Melissa, earlier in the evening, had plans to go to a slumber party, and her parents told her that she couldn't use the car, the family car or whatever. And so she was sitting at home just kind of dejected and kind of bummed out. After talking to Melissa's boyfriend and actually Salt Lake Sheriff's Detective Jerry Thompson, I found out that her and her sister both kept little makeup kits that they would use when they snuck out of the house. Not that they snuck out of the house all of the time, but you know how kids are, teenagers. I used to do it all the time, you know. But anyway, this is where she lived in 1974. Let me pop out and then I'll kind of show you the route that she took to get over to the Pepperoni, and then we'll backtrack and come all the way back to where I believe Bundy possibly apprehended her. So, Melissa Smith's house, where her father, Lewis Smith, the Midvale chief of police, lived. The common narrative is that Melissa would have walked down this street right here. I know it's kind of dark in these lights, which is Fern Circle, to the end of the street, which would take you up to the north towards where that pickup truck is in front of us. And there's actually a railroad crossing and the crossing for I-15 freeway. Whoa. Just on the other side, there's an underpass or an overpass, whatever you want to call it. And back in those days, this large sound barrier thing was not there. It was just the side of a hill. But let me kind of pop down, I'll show you. Because you can still get down there the way the kids probably still do today, you know. Let's check it out. So this is the end of Fern Circle. Melissa's house is just down at the end of the street to the left. I know it's a little dark, but you can still kind of sneak through here. Come around down here. And this is Wasatch Boulevard. So she would have walked up this direction towards Midvale Elementary and Midvale Middle School, cut between the two schools, walked northeast over towards Center Street and the Pepperoni Pizza. And here I'll show you how that went down. Okay, so this is Wasatch Boulevard heading east. Let's see. Here's that overpass, and here is that little trail right here. Melissa Smith would have walked this direction, and she may have made it this far on the way back as well. We don't know for sure. But as we go along here, I'll kind of tell you what I do know. So, taking a left here, this is Oak Street. Kind of wraps around this way and then again heads north. But right ahead of us, this is the site of the old Midvale Elementary and Midvale Middle. Now, about a year ago, they tore those two buildings down. If I'd have come down here then, I could have shown you the original schools. But they have a brand new school, middle school right over here, and a brand new elementary. But Melissa more than likely cut between these two schools. I know it's pretty dark. I did that intentionally so you might kind of get a feel for what it looked like that night. But she would have walked between these two schools, which are basically in the same spots, and headed straight over towards Center Street, possibly on a street called Chapel, which just runs to the north, excuse me, of towards Center Street, this direction, which is north. Actually, let's take a look at that. Let's try that. I wonder if I can get there from here. I believe I can. I think you can just pop right through here. It's a really big brand new middle school. It's actually pretty beautiful. I don't know if you can get through. Actually, Chapel Street is right over there, that direction, which would take you directly over to Center Street. But I'm going to take a little shortcut, go through here, because it makes more sense for me. But Melissa more than likely probably went that other direction. This is a street called Pioneer Street. And now we're heading north to Center Street. The pepperoni pizza is actually on Center Street. This guy possibly drive any slower? Anyway, so before 10 o'clock, probably about 9 o'clock, Melissa walked up this direction and headed up towards the pepperoni pizza, stayed until about 10 o'clock, and then left, heading back the other direction. But I'm going to take you straight up there. The building where the pepperoni pizza is actually still there. It's no longer called the pepperoni pizza. It's now called Joe Morley's Barbecue. It's actually really good barbecue food. And it's actually in the strip mall right here. Now, those lights are super glaring. This is it. I know that light is super glaring. I've seen the sign on this camera before, and it's really hard to see, but this is actually Joe Morley's Barbecue, which is closed. It's about 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. Yeah, let's just pop out and take a look just for the heck of it. So this is Center Street, heading west, that direction. Hey, they're actually waving. Hey, you're fine, sorry.
Alright, you picking someone up?
Nope, nope.
Alright, I was just making sure.
I wasn't about to tell him about the Melissa Smith thing, but this is Joe Morley's Pizza, side of the old pepperoni. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is kind of give you the route. that Melissa most likely took. I mean, it's almost 100%. She leaves the pepperoni pizza at about 10 o'clock. And starts walking down this direction on either side of the street, probably starting on this side, and then working her way over here. Now, what happened was, after talking to some family friends and her boyfriend, she actually came all the way down to a street called Oak Street, which is clear down here. She's definitely a couple of miles away from her house. The downtown Midvale area is down past those last lights you can see, and there's another giant overpass here. But according to her boyfriend and some of her family friends, she actually came down this street. And the reason we know that is because it was reported by her cousin that lived down this street that she actually stopped in and said hello for about 20 minutes or so. And it's about mid-block down here. I'm going to turn... I'm not going to do that yet. Her cousin's name, the family's name, according to her boyfriend, was Thornton in 1973. It was mid-block. He pointed it out to me on a map, which would be right about where the street intersects going over to the elementary school. So it was probably one of these houses right here that her cousin lived in, that she stopped in. I know it's really hard to see. So after leaving her cousin's house, after about 20 minutes or so, she walked down Oak Street this direction in the dark. Now, there's absolutely no proof of this, but it's very likely that Ted grabbed her somewhere along this part of the street or under the overpass, which is coming up around the corner here. And it's kind of weird to think, but you could almost picture the Volkswagen creeping down the street in the dark. I know I'm just kind of manufacturing this a little bit, but it's very possible that that's how it went down. I don't know. Nobody knows. But she was captured somewhere between her cousin's house and before she got home, obviously. And more than likely, it was right on that little stretch of street. Now, here's Midvale Elementary and Midvale Middle again. Or it was somewhere under the underpass here, overpass. Just walking along here. Because in 1974, who knows how much traffic was going on here at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30. Here is that little stretch where she would have hopped down, heading back from her house. I think I'm going to take a little walk down there so we can kind of get a look at it a little closer. Here is that little trail leading up to Fern Circle. If you can picture that. It's across the street. And this is a railroad crossing as well as I-15 heading north and south up through Idaho down that direction all the way down to Las Vegas and California. Anyway, Melissa Smith, Midvale, Utah, October 18th, 1974. 1.66, I believe. Okay, this is the little road. Definitely paved. A lot of hikers. Trails up here. There's some houses up here too, a little ways up. Okay, hey, you know what, I was thinking about it. I posted that Melissa Smith video the other day, and I thought I'd do a kind of a downtown version of it as well, in daylight, so you can kind of see the layout a little bit better. But anyway, this is the old downtown area of Midvale. This is Main Street and Center Street. And I'm not going to chop this up too much. I'm just going to make you tolerate traffic. You got the Midvale Main Street Theater. A lot of these buildings are really old. If you look right up there in the corner, that is the old police station, that brown building. That's where Lewis Smith actually worked. That was the old cop shop, basically. I'm gonna take a left here on Center Street. I'm gonna do this fairly quickly, so it's not too unbearably long, but this is the I-15 overpass, which also the train runs along as well. And the way I'll do it is I'll backtrack. I'll go to Lewis Smith's house, and I'll take you on the route that Melissa walked up to the pepperoni. This is Oak Street, okay? This is the street itself where Bundy more than likely grabbed Melissa. There's no proof of that, but according to Melissa's boyfriend and Jerry Thompson, she actually stopped at a cousin's house mid-block here, and it was like right one of these houses right here. Not sure which one. Their name was Thornton. This is Midvale Elementary over here. And so at this point, Bundy could have grabbed her at any point along here, because as you saw from the other video, if you watched it, it's fairly dark. I mean, he could have waited for her somewhere here. And, you know, and like someone pointed out that, you know, he would have been waiting for her, or did he chance upon her? And another question was that John had was this fence here? And the answer is no, all this is brand new. This wasn't here a year ago. So she probably just hopped right between that area, or was going to. This is Midvale Elementary and the middle school. Let's go all the way back to their house. This is the overpass. And off to the left here, this is the little spot where she probably walked down, where all the kids walked down back in those days. And I'm going to take the ugliest road in all of North America, right here. Construction from hell. I mean, really? It reminds me of being in California when we, a friend of mine used to actually take his 79 RX-7 and take it out to the landfill and jump it. True story. That's another story though. However, this is Fern Drive. Melissa lived at the very end of the street where that white truck is coming around here. Sound barrier for the train tracks and I-15. And this was Melissa's house right here. This is where she lived with her family. Okay. Right on. So this is Fern's Circle right here. And at the very end of the street, these new Camaros, man, I don't know about those. I think the new Dodge Challenger are pretty cool. But you can sneak down through here, and this sound barrier wasn't here back in those days. But that takes you down to Wasatch Boulevard. Oh, this really is fast. Okay, so Melissa, when she left that evening, she probably walked from her house, which is right there, walked down there, snuck behind that sound barrier down to Wasatch Boulevard. I guess I could go all the way down to the end of the street, but I'm going to take it again. Just because I'm a masochist. Well, I'm actually a sadist, but for the purpose of this video, I'm a masochist. It's the kind of place I always pick a nail up. Whoa. Bouncy, bouncy. One of these days I'd like to invest in a steady cam. Okay, so right where this guy is, right here, he just came down that. Right there. Here's the overpass where Melissa walked towards the pepperoni and potentially could have been caught under here as well by Bundy. Here's the fence. And take a left here. And the common narrative is that she went between these two schools. You have Midvale Elementary over here and Midvale Middle, which are both brand new, very expensive buildings, and walked between them, and there's a street between them called Chapel Street, which will take you directly north over to Center Street, where she would have walked east in order to get up to the pepperoni. And I don't think I can get to Chapel Street. Let's take a little peek. Maybe I can get over there from there. I wasn't into trying it out the other night. Nah, it looks like it's all fenced off. No, wait now. Let's try it. Let's check it out. Anyway, big brand new Middle. It was the Trojans. If I'd have come here a year ago, I could have gotten the actual building. So I'm kind of bummed a little bit because it would have led to making it look a little more era correct, because it certainly was. Yep, okay, I believe this is Chapel Street right here with the dead cones. So Melissa could have easily popped between those two schools. Yes, Chapel Street. And yeah, this makes really good sense if you think about it. This is Center Street. This would have been very quick for her. A lot of traffic today. Good old Midvale, Utah. Okay. And she could have walked on either side of the road here to get to the Pepperoni Pizza, which is just up on the left behind these big brand new apartments. You can see those up there with the white exterior. Right past Zions Bank. That bank is era correct. That was here back in those days. I've seen pictures of it. All of these houses. Man, busy day in Midvale. Okay. Okay, this is the old pepperoni pizza. It's called Joe Morley's Barbecue. Oops. Guy right behind me. Joe Morley's. This is the side of the old pepperoni pizza. Okay, so after leaving right around 10 o'clock, she had spoken to her sister and told her she was coming home, Jolene. Who is also deceased now, unfortunately. She died in 2014. Very sad. It's my understanding she had moved to Las Vegas and died down there. And to give you an idea how small this town is, the cemetery is just about a block over this direction, where Jolene, Lewis, and Melissa are both buried. Anyway, Center Street. Walk down this direction. We know she made it at least mid-block to her cousin's house on Oak Street by the name of Thornton. I've looked back through and I can't find any records in vintage phone books or anything like that. So that would have been the quickest way to find out where they were at the archives, but here you go. There's right like that, you're on Oak Street. And the Thornton house, the cousin, would have lived in one of these two houses, I believe. I actually had the house pointed out to me on a map, and I believe it was that one. So this is Oak leading over to the overpass. And this street certainly looks a lot like it did back then. These are all era correct houses. You know, mostly post-World War II houses that were, you know, just put up from homecoming soldiers. Oldish neighborhood. And here you go. Here's the overpass. Just like that. A little easier to see it in the daytime. I felt like it was necessary to pair those up a little bit if anybody was interested in checking that out. But here, I'll go back. Let's see if I can show you in relation how close the cemetery is actually. You know, my son pointed out something to me funny about these FedEx trucks. there's an arrow between the E and the X in the lower part of the E, and that was a design that was intentionally, they did that. But I mean, has anybody ever noticed that? It's one of those things that nobody ever noticed. But oh my God, oh thank you God. Ooh, maybe I can't get over there from here. Yeah, maybe I can. Oh yeah, I got this. Okay, so that is the old downtown area where the Midvale Museum is as well. Those guys are fantastic. Really nice guys. I found a lot of very interesting information from going in there and chatting with them. Oops, I missed a turn for the cemetery, but I think I can get there from here. Yep, I sure can. Center Street, turning on Chapel Street. Yep, this takes you right down to the cemetery. Probably driving way too fast for a little neighborhood, but you know what? Ask me how much I care. If people don't like how I drive, they should stay off the sidewalk. Oh, and it's locked. Anyway, this is the cemetery right here. This is it. She is buried just way at the very end of the cemetery. Melissa, Lewis, and Jolene, they're buried on that end, way down there. Anyway. Okay, this is the Midvale Cemetery. Excuse me, in Midvale, Utah. Back in October of 1974, Melissa Smith was abducted from the Pepperoni Pizza by Ted Bundy on October 18th, excuse me. And this is her final resting spot right here. Rest in peace, Melissa. You know, it's kind of sad. Her sister, Jolene, died October 12th of 2014, 2 years ago in Las Vegas. I found out about that from a family friend. And she was an older sister, obviously, of Melissa. Excuse me, younger sister. A couple years younger. And right next to them is Lewis Smith, their father. And Lewis actually was the police chief of Midvale. He's a very respected member of the police community here in Salt Lake City. Bob Hayward, the guy who captured Ted Bundy on August 16th, 1975, was really good friends with Lewis. Bob's brother, Pete Hayward, was actually really good friends. He was the police captain of Salt Lake City Sheriff's Department back in those days. And he later became sheriff of Salt Lake. And he died in the 90s. Jerry Thompson, the lead homicide investigator on the Ted Bundy case here in Salt Lake, who was a major part of that case, was personal friends with Lewis. They all knew each other, so this was a major hit. Melissa was walking to her house from the Pepperoni Pizza a little bit after 10 o'clock on October 18th, off that direction, off Center Street. She was supposed to have gone to a slumber party, and her friends never called, and her parents wouldn't let her use the car, even though she was old enough to drive it. So she was sitting around home, kind of noisy, feeling dejected, and one of her friends called her and said, "Hey, I'm up at the Pepperoni and I'm having some problems with my boyfriend. Will you come up and hang out with me?" And, you know, whatever. And so she did. She went up there about 8 o'clock. walked from her house off Fern Lane and stayed there for a couple hours, and on her way home she ended up being abducted at some point. With a little research, it turns out it was most likely on this underpass for the railroad line, which kind of runs that direction, and along the freeway there. It's still there. Her house is still there, actually, where the whole family lived. And you know, research kind of points to the fact that he probably grabbed her underneath that underpass. She was found on the 27th of October in an area called Lamb's Canyon, a couple miles up a canyon up in the hills. And she it's just off I-80 East going up towards Park City. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the area, but she was found up there, and Jerry Thompson actually was responsible for taking her out of there. Anyway, Melissa Smith. We got Lewis Smith. Mom's still alive, it looks like. Melissa and Jolene. Rest in peace, everyone here. Midvale Cemetery, Midvale, Utah.